I'm in the Woodyard today. I'm going to tell you about how it all started, how I started selling firewood. This is where it happened. Here we go. So this weekend I'm up here with my buddy Bill. This is his place. He's got about 95 acres, something like that. We're in central Wisconsin, Adams County if you want to be kind of specific, sort of. This is where I started cutting and selling firewood. Now, I have cut firewood my whole life, well, since I was about 7 with my dad, because we heated with wood. But this is where I actually started cutting wood to sell. I had always cut wood here a little bit for myself, for burning in the fireplace and the fire pit at home. My wife and I family would go through maybe a full cord to 2 full cords a year at the most. But oak wilt hit this area, and there was a really nice oak savanna type area here on my buddy's land. I would say half of his land is high ground that has oaks, the rest of it is lower land, and a lot of red and white oaks. Well, what happened about 15 or so years ago, the oak wilt started moving into this area, and a lot of the oaks started dying off. Well, as they died off, they were rotting and falling over and blocking a lot of his trails. And so my buddy Bill told me, he says, hey, we need to open up those trails. So we started cutting the trails open so we could get around the property on the ATV or trucks even driving around. And so we cut enough wood for the cabin, because we'd always burn wood when we're here camping, sort of, when we're here at the cabin. And I had extra wood, so I started hauling some wood home, and eventually I had probably, I don't know, 20 or 30 face cords, so about 10 full cords or so that I had for about a year, and we would burn it. And then the next year I cut even more, and I was cutting it with a 455 Rancher Husqvarna chainsaw, and all I had was a splitting maul. And the next year I cut maybe another 10 or 15 or so. So I had a bunch of wood, and my wife says, what in the world are you gonna do with all that wood? I said, well, maybe I'll sell some. So I put an ad on Craigslist, and within a matter of a week and a half or so, I sold like, I don't know, 12 or 15 full cords. It was just gone. And I thought, whoa, that was kind of nice. I made some extra cash, sold some wood. Next year, maybe I'll cut a little bit more. Well, the trees just kept dying and dying, and I cut more and more. And that was about 12 or 13 years ago. So now there's even more dead trees here. So I'm gonna walk around today and show you some of the areas I've cut and some of the trees that I will be able to cut in the future, because I come here and we got to open up trails, and there's a lot of dead trees. So I'm going to show you some of those right now. So my buddy Bill and I have known each other for well over 30 years, 35 years or so. I have been my whole life, adult life, professional photographer, full-time for 42 years now. I've been a photographer. And my buddy Bill was also a photographer for, I think he was a photographer about the same amount of time, about 40 years. He's about 9 years older than me, and he retired a few years ago. He was actually the inventor of the Heumann saw. If you guys have ever hunted at all, there's an extendable saw. He invented it, and him and his son built the company up, and then they sold it a few years ago, and he got enough money that he was able to retire, so he did it. And this is his cabin, and we've been coming here hunting for a long time. This isn't the only place I hunt. This is kind of our, we call it just the meat hunt. We shoot a lot of does, and a lot of what we do here is just hanging out and taking it easy. But he's got a really nice woods. I'm going to show you some of the areas here. Now in the back of the cabin here, this is all oaks all through here, white and red oak. You can see the red oak right now have the leaves on them because we're in beginning of November here. And a lot of these trees are still healthy. There's some that are broke off. There's one there that's broke off, one there. There's one back here. And this is the kind of stuff that I basically cut. I don't cut the live trees. A lot of what I cut here is basically the ones that are either snapped off from weather, from wind, or the ones that are dead from oak wilt. So you can see one here. You can see stuff like this. This is what I'll cut. This one got snapped off. Looks like it was a little rotten here. So this is a red oak. There's one over there that you can see, that diagonal one. That's a red oak. I'll be cutting that one. There's one laying over there. There's one right here. This one died from oak wilt. You can see it's off the ground, no bark on it. So this kind of stuff, what's really nice when you cut it, it's already dry, because it's been laying here for about a year now. But it was standing dead, and the roots basically rot off like you see here, which is very common in the sand country that we're in here. This is very sandy soil. And so the trees just rot, and then they fall over, and they're really easy to cut. There's a bunch of other ones here. I'm looking over this way. You can see stuff like this here. This one right here is a a dead one, oak wilt, got that one. This one right here is dead. If you look up at the top, you can see the bark's coming off. That's dead from oak wilt. This one is dying because there's only a few leaves on it, which means this one's got oak wilt. This will be probably next year that nothing will grow on it, so this one will be dying. So it's been gradual like that, that they just kind of die off. And it used to be really thick through here, but now it's kind of thinning out. I've cut hundreds of trees in here over the last 12 years or so. And then what we started doing, at the same time is all these pine trees here. These are actually spruce. These are white spruce, and we started planting those by the hundreds years ago. And the reason we started planting them was that we knew that as the oak trees died off, it was going to be pretty barren in here. So we started planting all these spruce trees. And the reason we picked the spruce trees is because we tried everything else. We planted a lot of red pine, which were great. Some of them lived, some of them are growing in the back end of the property, but we found that the deer like it too. There's not a lot of red pine around here, and they just ate them right up because there's a real high deer population in this area. So the red pines didn't work, the deer ate those off. We planted some balsams. They did okay, some of those lived. We planted white pine. The deer ate those off because they like the needles apparently, they ate those off. And we found that the one kind of tree that the deer did not bother, they don't eat, was the white spruce. Now, just north of here, about 10 miles, there is a place called the Nepco Nursery. It's the Nakusa Port Edwards area, and they have a nursery there, and you can buy nursery stock, which means you can get seedlings. And I think we planted probably, I would say 5 or 6 years in a row, we planted 500 trees. We get 500 trees in the spring, we planted them. And some of the years they did really good, and then other years we would lose a lot of them. Some of the years half of them would live, some of the years most of them would die. We did that about 5 years in a row, then we took off for about 2 or 3 years, and we noticed some of them were starting to grow pretty good. Well, then we started planting again. So I think we've planted, we're talking about it, we think about a dozen times we bought 500 trees and planted them, the seedlings, and I think you get them for, I think when he was buying them, they were less than $1 a piece. Like 70, 60 cents a piece, something like that. Little 2-year-old yearlings, saplings we would plant. And we planted all of the trees you see here, all of the spruce trees. We've planted all of these. And this is just in one little spot here. But there's some areas in the back where we planted rows and rows and rows. We even had the Boy Scouts come when my son was in Boy Scouts, and we planted trees all day long. We did it, usually if it was just my buddy and myself, we would plant here, and we would put in, you know, maybe we could each do 150, 200 trees a day, so we'd come on a weekend and plant. But then when we brought the Boy Scouts here, we had the Boy Scouts help, and we planted hundreds of trees. So it was kind of fun. So over the years, I would say we probably have planted, just a guesstimate, 6,000, 7,000 trees, maybe something like that. So for every tree that I've ever cut down in my life, I have replaced trees. Because people ask me that on their channel, oh, you're cutting all these trees down, do you ever replant them? Well, the thing is that in nature, when you take out trees and you create a void, that void is filled very fast. New trees grow up instantly. Usually the first crop you get is aspen, or around here a lot of cherry trees and soft maple will grow up real fast. The oak savanna tends to be the oldest type of woods. So if you got a lot of oak trees, that means that everything else has happened to get to the oaks because they're slower growing, they're dominant. They kind of take the area over. There's an area that's that way, about a half a mile. It's top of a hill, and that whole area is all white oak. I mean, it's solid white oak, so the deer just love it. It's one of the areas we hunt, actually. So I'm going to take you to a different area and show you some more stuff. So right here, I'm on the edge of a marsh, and here is a white oak. There's a white oak, and the top is dead, I see. And here is a red oak right here, and that's dead and dying. There's another one back there dead. 3 or 4 more back there dead. These 5 right out here, these are dead. Last year they were still alive, but they're dead now. And part of the reason these died is they put a new highway in. I'm going to show you that. They raised the level of the highway out there. When they did it, they didn't redig the ditches. They actually filled the ditches in, so all the water came this direction. So this all flooded out, because there used to be a lot of trees growing out here, but it flooded out and it killed a lot of trees. Like here's one of the spruce trees we planted. This was all flooded right up to here where I'm walking right now. And like the spruce tree here, you can see it flooded it out. Here's a tree that I had cut off. Oak tree, I'd cut that down. And so a lot of this stuff died off. Where that one little bitty white oak out there, that's a little island out there. It's a little higher spot, but these here all got flooded, and because this one right here is a white oak, which is not susceptible to the oak wilt, but the 4 in the back, those are red oaks, and so they died off. But there's still a lot of dead oaks in here, and I'll take you to another area and show you some more stuff. So here's another example of another tree that's got oak wilt. It's dying. Part of it is still alive, but this last year this was alive and there was bark on it, so now this one's dying off. Here's one here that just broke off in the high wind. So we had some real high winds here, so that's broke off. So there's a big limb laying here, so I'll have to cut that up. And right now I'm walking down the trail that we made going to the back of the property, because this makes a big loop all the way around. And you can see here there's still a lot of nice red oaks in here that are alive, but it used to be much more of them. I'm going to take you to another area where it's really been cut off, probably a good 40 or 50 oak trees coming up here. I'll show you that area. So this area right here, you can see there's a stump right here, there's a stump over here, there's a stump right there, there's a stump right over there, there's a stump right over here. So this was all red oak standing on this hill in here. I'm kind of on a high spot. This is kind of where one of the areas we used to deer hunt a lot. But so see stumps here, stumps there, stumps there. So I logged this off. This was just solid, heavy, thick woods in this whole area all through here. And I cut all this off because they all died. And the only ones that are left, obviously, are the ones that are still alive that didn't have oak wilt. So they made it, which was good, because if you want to get rid of them as fast as you can as they get oak wilt, it kind of saves the other trees. And so this area is very nice now. And so if you look over here, there's a stump there, there's a stump there, there's a stump over there. Right here's the stump, right there's the stump. And there's stumps down along the edge here, because I cut a lot of those. And I'm going to walk over this way here. You can see how many more stumps there are. There's one right here, one right here, one right there, one right over there, one right over here, two of them over there. So another one there. And so this was a very, very thick area with the oak trees, and I cut all this off. So I'd say this whole area that I'm walking through now is, I don't know, maybe a couple acres worth of trees that I cut off because they were dead and dying. And all that's left is a few of them like this you see here. But even some of these are dying off, and I'll show you kind of what's happening now, because it just keeps going. And going through that direction, there's probably another acre over there that I did like a select cut. I probably cut a good 10, 15 trees right in there and left the ones that are still alive. I left those, and because they're still alive, but there's a few other ones that are dying now. So it just keeps progressing, and hopefully we get it to the point where it's going to stop, because some of the oak trees are kind of nice to have. I mean, we don't want them gone. It's kind of a reason he bought the property. It's a very nice property. But I'm going to show you the trail over here. I'm going to get back on the trail and show you what's happening. All right, so I made it back onto the trail here, and you can see here this tree was knocked off not too long ago, because you can see the leaves on it haven't really turned. They're actually just drying out. This tree snapped off when it was green this summer. We had a wind come through, so you can see here. So this one's got to be cut up, and right here's the trail. This trail goes all the way around, and I'm probably a good 500-600 yards away from the cabin. It's over that way. So this has got to be taken care of, because we drive in on this trail here. And then up here's another one, and that's the reason I decided to do this video today, just to kind of give you a little history and show you what's in store, because I am going to come and do some cutting here. So now this one is down right on the road, and so this whole tree will be cut down. Even though that's still alive, I'll just cut this whole thing down. So this one's got to go, and it's right on the road, so that'll be kind of convenient. And there's one here that tipped over in the wind. You can see it's a leaner, so that'll cut up. This area through here used to have solid oaks all the way through, and you can see it's pretty sparse and open. I've cut dozens of trees in there. And then coming down the trail this way, this one broke off last year when I was here, and it's been laying here ever since. I just didn't cut it, but this one died from oak wilt, and then it snapped off and it's laying right there. So that'll be really good wood. When the bark starts coming off, it's just awesome. And this is a nice sized tree. I'll get up close here and show you the size of my hand here. So this is probably a 24-inch or real close to it. So lots of wood in there. And then this whole area here, I cut all this off all the way through here, this whole area here. So we're at another part of the property here, and this is a kind of a swampy area that when they raised the road level, this flooded even more probably about 4 or 5 years ago. This was fairly dry, and then they flooded this whole swamp because the road is up that way. I don't know, we're probably 300 or 400 yards away from the road. This all flooded out, and it was all soft maple in here and a lot of jack pines, but when it flooded, it killed all the trees. Now this is the area where I was, probably about a year or so ago, I was with, Tony came with me, and we were doing some videos with his portable winches. And this is where we cut down a whole bunch of the maple trees. You can see some stumps here and here and here, and there's all kinds of stumps through here. So we did cut some of these, but there's a whole bunch more that are standing dead that could be cut. The problem is I don't have the time to cut them all, and these are going to start to rot. If some of them are already getting rotten because they don't last that long. I'd love to cut all this and just keep doing it, but I just don't have the time. I got to do other stuff and got a lot of other jobs to do, and with everything that's going on, and being able to come and cut just isn't super high on my list because I got so much other stuff going on. But it's all here for the taking, and he's fine if I cut it. So I know a lot of you are like drooling, but I am also, you got to realize, I'm an hour and a half away from home from here. So it is a little trip to come and do it. So a lot of times when I used to come cut here, I would come early in the morning with my trailer, my saws. I would cut a trailer load full, load it up. I would cut another trailer load full, leave it. I would go home, dump off my trailer. I'd come back, load up another trailer load full, and then go home. So I could do 2 loads a day. So each day I was making somewhere around, I would say 7 to 8 face cords. So a full cord and a half, something like that. No, 2 full cords and a half, something like that each time I would come. But that's a full day of really hard work because it's all manual labor because I didn't have a tractor or anything to use here. So I was cutting and then loading by hand. So here's another tree that snapped off right here, and that's right close to the road. And if you look down across this low area here, there's some dead standing oak there. There's probably, I think I counted 14 dead oaks out there, and there's some over in that strip. It's kind of like ridges that run through here. That could all be cut. And then down the road farther this way, this is the road we're on, and look what we got here. So Bill told me, hey, there's some trees down. You got to get to work. So I can't even go down the road. We got to go around it here. I'm gonna go around this way. And as we come around, you can see that this one broke off not too long ago. Oh yeah. Yeah, they had like some really high winds here, and so a lot of the trees went down. So it's right on the road. This is the road we're back on. So there's the tree that broke off. This one's dead right here. This one dead right back there, 2 of them. And then this one right here, right across the road. So that's got to be taken care of. And then as we go down the road this way, I'll show you some more. So we're down the road a little farther here, and we got some big oaks like this. This is a monster here. And there's some big ones right here and here. These are still alive, which is good. And there's a few of them that made it. But as we go down the road, I'll show you some spots where I did a bunch of cutting. So right there's a big stump. I cut that one. Here's 3 or 4 more stumps here. Stump over there, stump right there, stump here. This one I remember. These 2 trees together, these were some big ones. I cut these, I think I got, well, if I remember right, it was like 4 and a half full cords from these 2 trees. Actually, I think it was more like 5 when I remember. There's this stump and this stump, so you can see how big these are here. These are some pretty good ones. These are oaks. There was a lot of wood in these 2 trees right here. Then coming down the road a little farther, another dead oak, another dead oak, another one, another one, another one, another one, another one. All these are dead. These are all mine for the taking. It's just time. How much time do I have? And the good thing is that they're oak. And because they're oak, they're not going anywhere. They're not gonna rot. They last a long time standing dead. They're good for 4 or 5 years at least. Then they'll get rotten in the roots and they'll tip over. And then if they tip over and they stay off the ground, they'll last plenty long. I've had some trees that were hung up and laying sideways in the, across another tree or something. You can tell it's been there for years, and the wood is bone dry on the inside. because it's hung up and it'll stay like that, and oak will last a very long time. So we're going to another area to show you some more stuff. All right, so now we're back in around the back end of the property, and you can see there's a few trees here. There's a bunch of pines you can see through there, the spruce trees we planted. And this is one of the areas where we planted lots of them, but a lot of them didn't make it. But there's some, and the problem is some of the deer are rubbing their antlers on them, killing some of them. But this is the road again that goes around the backside. And we've got more trees down here that are gonna have to come out, so there's always work. Look at the size of that one. That's a dead oak right there. That's right on the edge of one of the swamps. And if you look out, we'll go down over this way towards the swamp, you can see a whole bunch more trees. And these are all trees that I could cut too, and I can drive, in the wintertime I can drive right in here. So a whole bunch of dead red oaks. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, about 12 or 13 I can see right back over in there. And if we go down this way, we got this bad boy right here. This one right here probably has at least 2 full cords, maybe 3 full cords. It's a big tree. And then the stuff that's across the road here. So like I said, there's lots and lots of trees to cut in here. So here's one that's broke off. Right here you can see, and shattered a couple trees actually, it looks like, yeah. This one right here, there's one laying right there that's broke off, and then this one. So there's 3 in this cluster right here that are down. And then over here, there's 2 that are down. And then there's one up over here that's down. Another oak wilt victim right here, 2 of them side by side. Those 2, those are some big ones. That's a white pine there that's dead, and that's a jack pine there that's dead. And then over here's another oak wilt, another one there. And I already cut a lot of this off in here. And going down through this ridge, I cut off probably 5 or 6 trees already that I know of in there that I've cut. Because I know I spent a couple days in there. So I could probably cut here every day for a year. And that's how long it would take me to get this all cleaned up. And that'd be all great and fine if I was just cutting for myself. But I have found that it's not as productive to do this, even if the wood is free, just because of the amount of time that I have to put into hauling it, loading it. Even if I brought my tractor here and loaded logs and took them back to the woodyard, it's just a lot of time. And I have figured it out that if I order logs from a logger and have truckloads brought in, it's more productive, and I can actually make more dollars per hour buying wood than I can cutting it like this and then hauling it and then splitting it and then drying it and selling it. It's just more productive if I buy the logs, because I'm hiring a professional to do his job. Kind of like, you hire a dentist to do your dental work. It'd probably cost you more money to try to do it to yourself. It wouldn't be fun either. All right, we're gonna go to one other area. I've only covered maybe a third of the property so far, but this area up front, I'm gonna show you something pretty interesting. You might like this. So now we're back up front, and these are all the spruce trees we planted. And again, there's different generations because we kept planting them in to fill in. This is all along the edge of the swamp where his road comes into the cabin. And we put these here because he kind of wanted to make a roadblock viewing wise, so he doesn't have to see the road, and he didn't want people seeing him because he's back in on his property, because we're walking down the road right now. And I'll give you a view back. So there's the cabin back over there in the shed. And so this used to be all oak trees through here. It was really nice and thick, but as you can see, they died off. So because what happened was they raised the road out there, and then this all flooded, killed all these trees off. We're gonna go out there and I'll show you that. So here's another area where we planted a whole bunch of spruce trees. You can see they're growing up pretty thick now. You used to be able to see that way for a couple hundred yards because all it was mature oak trees. But because we cut a lot of them off, it opened up, so we planted a lot of these spruce and a lot of cherry trees, and there's a lot of small soft maples that are growing. But you can see from standing right here, there's a dead standing barkless oak tree right there. There's a dead one right here and another dead one right there, and then you can see live ones back that way. So these 3 right here are free for the taking, and the road is right over here, so it'll be pretty easy to get at them. So here's along the drive on the other side, walking out. I'm probably halfway out to the road now. And you can see all the spruce trees we planted here. This used to be all oaks. I cut all these off. There's probably a couple acres worth through here, this whole ridge that I cut off, and we've been planting all these trees over the years so it fills in, and we wanted something that would grow fast and fill it in more for bedding areas for deer. So we've been planting a lot of spruce trees and stuff like that so it thickens up, and it seems to be that they're growing pretty good. So these are really growing fast now. Once they get up above the grass, they take off. So like I said, we planted thousands of trees, thousands. So that's that. Okay, now we're going to turn to the right here and go towards the road. Here is an area that's a little high ground, and in here I cut off probably, I would say 20 oak trees that were red oaks that died because of oak wilt. And you can see some of the old stumps there, and there's a bunch of stumps over there and along there. So right now what's happening is some of these soft maples like here and here are growing, and then the white oaks are doing pretty good in here because they weren't affected by it, and there's more maples in here growing. So it is coming back. But the main thing that happened, and here's a white oak that died. I'm gonna have to cut that one down before it falls down because that'd be good. Here's another red oak right here that's dead, but we're gonna walk up through the marsh grass here, and this is where the ditch starts. Hopefully I won't get wet feet. I think it's pretty dry. Yeah, it's not much of a ditch. It's kind of flat actually. So they should have dug it out. So they do mow this, but here you can see in the front part of the property, this was that little high ridge right here where you come in on the road. So some of these trees made it because it wasn't too wet there. But then from here all the way back over there, it all flooded. So this at one time was full of maple trees, oak trees, white pines, jack pines, and you can see some of them are still standing, but over the last 10 years or so, they've been gradually falling over. So these are all dead. And he went to the actual meetings where he raised some complaints about how all the trees died off when they raised the road here, because they raised the road, I don't know, like 3 feet or something. And so what that did is it basically made a ditch here, and then everything flooded into his property to the cabin that way. So this whole front section, I'm guessing is, well, just looking at it, it might be 15 acres, maybe more. All these trees died off, and so he's not too happy about it. And even some of the maple trees, which can handle a lot of water, they died off. There's elm trees, maple trees that are in here, and they're all dead now too. This last spring we had lots of rain, and this was all flooded. This was water right here, so it was all flooded. So anything that was alive died too. And there's a slope coming down this way, so all the water runs this direction and then into the swamp. And you can't see it, but there's a slope coming this direction and then in, so all the water went this way, and there's no outlet for it either because there's high ground back there. So basically just became a man-made lake because of the road, and it killed all of his trees off. So he's not too happy about it. He could have fought it and complained, but he said, what's the point? You know, what do they get? You can't bring the trees back. So there you go. So this is the place my firewood business started, right here, my buddy Bill's land. He's the one that gave me my first trailer. It was his trailer that I used for hauling wood. And I would come cut wood, and it was just a cargo trailer that could hold 2 face cords. That's all I could fit in it, and I would fill my truck. So I could haul about a full cord with my truck in a trailer, and I'd take it back to my property where my photography business was, and I would stack it up there. And so the first year I cut 40 face cords and sold it. So about, what was that, about 13 full cords, something like that. Then the next year I did 80. So 80 would be 3 and 8, 20, like 28 full cords, something like that. And then the next year I did like 120, and then the next year I did about 150. Then the next year I did about like 170 or 80. The next year I did like 220, and I did 220 for a couple of years. And then I hit probably pretty close to 300 once I started buying wood. And so that's what happened. So here you can see a bunch of stumps right along the road here. I cut these in, I remember it was in February. It was super cold when we were cutting this, but there's that. So that is my story. And now we're gonna go look for some deer in the woods. That's all I got for today, folks. You know what to do. Poke the buttons. I'll be back tomorrow morning, 5:30 a.m. with another video for you. Right now, go watch all my other videos. There's 1,600 waiting for you. Good night, Irene.